Everybody set? Everybody ready? It's your last call to be ready. I'm going to take the enduring silence of the chat as everybody is ready. Oh, thank you, Danny. Okay. Play ready for him. All right. Ready as we'll ever be. Ithaca at last. His tale was over now. The Phaeacians all fell silent, hushed, his story holding them spellbound down the shadowed halls, until Alcinous found the poise to say, Odysseus, now that you have come to my bronze-floored house, my vaulted rooms, I know you won't be driven off your course. Nothing can hold you back. However much you've suffered, you'll sail home. Here, friends, here's a command for one and all. You, who frequent my palace day and night and drink the shining wine of kings and enjoin the harper's songs, the robes and hammered gold, and a haul of other gifts, you lords of our island council brought our guest. All lie packed in his polished sea chest now. Come, each of us add a sumptuous tripod, add a cauldron, then recover our cost with levies on the people. It's hard to afford such bounty, man by man. Yes, as Mariana says, the first 2 verses are actually the same as the ones in book 11 after the telling of the souls of the women in the underworld by Odysseus. Yep. Lots of repetition in Homer. It's also, again, remember this was an oral tradition, so I'm pretty sure it's not just Homer, but it's probably some sort of like almost stylistic quirk of the epic poem, the genre, if you will, in general. Because again, if you sing, we like repetition. Did he say to add more gifts because he feels pity for Odysseus after hearing his story? More like, wow, dude, surely you're gonna get home, you've endured such a crazy story, I'm just gonna give you more shit. You could see it as pity. I was thinking of the tripod camera. You could think of it as pity, but I think it's more just like remembering the Phaeacians. If we talk about, again, Xenia, which we must always mention, the moral constant really through the Odyssey, the one moral code that everybody knows, understands, and wants to uphold. The Phaeacians are exhibiting amazing Xenia, by the way. They are above and beyond Xenia. And it's sort of just like, I must pay you for this story and thing that you've given me, and continuing on. Give a man a shit ton of gifts, then tax. Yeah, no, and that is the thing. It says, recover our cost with levies on the people. Because we can't afford all of this just by ourselves, we'll reap it by taxing the people, which is like, oh then, okay. That feels a bit much, but okay. Yeah, also thanks for telling such a cool story. Yeah, it's almost like payment. They said, we're just going to add even more, because they'd already gathered all these gifts before he told his story. Now, after hearing the story, he's just like, you know what, actually, I feel like I'm not giving you enough. I need to give you even more. Because, and this is sort of that moment where, again, what I think is also interesting is, you know, Alcinous at this point, he doesn't know that by this point, we know Odysseus is essentially fated to reach home because he's made it to Scadia, but obviously Alcinous doesn't know this, even Odysseus doesn't know this. Chosen the king though. Because but it's for Alcinous, after hearing this tale, he feels he's gotten a better measure of this man in front of him. And we also are emphasizing in a way that Odysseus's true kleos, at least in the context of the Odyssey, does not lie with his exploits in Troy. It lies with this nostos and the completion of his nostos, right? Because it's the nostos of all nostoi. Like, it is the most grand and insane nostos ever. The king's instructions met with warm applause, and home they went to sleep, each in his own house. When young Dawn with her rose-red fingers shone once more, they hurried down to the ship with handsome bronze gifts, and striding along the decks, the ardent king Alcinous stowed them under the benches, ship-shape, so nothing could foul the crewmen tugging at their oars. Remember, we talked about the pentaconter, that like what little storage you had was sort of under the bench where you, the rowers, sat. These were very shallow ships. Rose red fingers. Oh, I know, right? Then back to the party, went to Alcinous' house, and shared a royal feast. The majestic king slaughtered an ox for them to Cronus' mighty son, Zeus of the thundercloud, whose power rules... Oh, sorry. I was turning off my thing. The thundercloud, whose power rules the world. They burned the thighs and fell to the lordly banquet, reveling there, while in their midst the inspired bard struck up a song, Demodocus, prized by all the people. True. But time and again Odysseus turned his face toward the radiant sun, anxious for it to set, yearning now to be gone and home once more, as a man aches for his evening meal when all day long his brace of wine-dark oxen have dragged the bolted plowshare down a fallow field. How welcome the setting sun to him, the going home to supper. Yes, though his knees buckle, struggling home at last. Why are the Phaeacians setting sail in the dark? Because they have magic ships. They have magic ships. Their ships travel by thought, and they are so fast that their travel is essentially borderline instantaneous. So they can set sail in the dark because it's like, and we set sail and poof, we're there. Who rules over everybody? Zeus, yes, who rules over all. How does this bingo work? There is a bingo board. Has the bingo board been, I do believe it has been properly shared. If it hasn't, somebody can share it. There's a bingo board, and it's essentially, if this thing gets mentioned, you can try and make a bingo, and usually they say, when we get bingo, Peg gets a carrot. In this case, I will find a little snack to give her. So that's how it goes. The cliches. I mean, yeah, don't we all wish we had transportation that good? Well, yeah, the Phaeacians, yeah, no worries. So welcome now to Odysseus, the setting light of day, and he lost no time as he pressed Phaeacia's men who loved their oars, addressing his host Alcinous first and foremost. Alcinous, majesty shining among your island people, make your libations, launch me safely on my way. To one and all, farewell. All is now made good, my heart's desire, your convey home, your precious, loving gifts. And may the gods of Olympus bless them for me. May I find an unswerving wife when I reach home, and loved ones hail unharmed. And you, my friends, remaining here in your kingdom now, may you delight in your loyal wives and children. May the gods rain down all kinds of fortune on your lives. Misfortune never harbor in your homeland. Which is super fucking ironic. Which of course Odysseus does not realize how ironic. What he's saying is like, may you all be blessed, when in fact his very presence and the fact they are helping him is what is ultimately cursing and dooming them. Paying back a bet I lost from last year, so I may not be back. Oh my god, Birchwood, you're gonna have to explain when you get back. Womp womp. Please also remember, if you have a question, use the like hand raising emoji so that I can see it. Otherwise you'll kind of be lost in the chat. Friend of the show, Nadia would love this word. He would. What are the rows for the boats traveling by thought? Because you still row. It's just that you like do like one push and all of a sudden it's like, boop, we're there. Because it still goes across the water. It's just hella fucking fast. Yes, this emoji, thank you, Game Wizard. Because that helps clue me in that there's a question, like it catches my attention. Is Odysseus worried Penelope may be cheating, or did he say the unswerving wife thing because it is a good thing to say in this moment? He's a little concerned about what he's going to find when he gets back because he doesn't know. He knows it's been, at this point, 20 years. He doesn't know what he's gonna find when he gets home. Remember, Tiresias told him, you're going to find your palace fucking, like, under siege. He doesn't know what's been going on. So he's admittedly a little concerned. The people yearn for teleportation, it's true. Well, it's not just Ghost Agamemnon. It's also, I mean, common sense, 20 years, no word of him, you gotta wonder, but also even getting the prophecy from Tiresias. Remember, Tiresias told him, you're gonna find suitors and shit all over your palace. He doesn't know if she slept with any of them. He doesn't. Ah, without blame. Yeah, I get why it was changed to faithful, because it's like having her without blame would be, did you take someone to the marriage bed, where the blame would fall on her for doing that. Agam's fault why there was a slaughter. No, Agnes, it's not. It's not. We've had this conversation. It's not. There was always going to be a slaughter well before any of that. So, but yes, Odysseus basically saying thank you so much. It's kind of a big irony. He's like, oh, the gods will bless you for all this, when we're all sitting here like, oh, no, they won't. Did we forget the prophecy that's been twice mentioned in this story? The doubt is if she's still in the house, not that she's unfaithful. Yeah. So if she married and then went away. Yeah, exactly, as well. All burst into applause, urging passage home for their parting guest. His farewell rang so true. Hallowed King Alcinous briskly called his herald. Come, Pontonous, mix the wine in the bowl, pour rounds to all of our banqueters in the house, so we, with a prayer to mighty Zeus the Father, can sail our new friend home to native land. Pontonous mixed the heady, honeyed wine, and hovering closely, poured full rounds for all. And from where they sat, they tipped libations out to the happy gods who rule the vaulting skies. Then King Odysseus rose up from his seat, and placing his two-eared cup in Arete's hands, addressed the queen with parting wishes on the wing. Your health, my queen, through all your days to come, until old age and death, that visit all mankind, pay you a visit too. Now I am on my way, but you, may you take joy in this house of yours, in your children, your people, in Alcinous, the king. With that, the great Odysseus strode across the threshold, and King Alcinous set the herald off with the guest to lead him down to the swift ship and foaming surf. And Arete sent her serving women, one to carry a sea cloak, washed and fresh, a shirt as well, another assigned to bear the sturdy chest, and a third to take the bread and ruddy wine. When they reached the ship at the water's edge, the royal escorts took charge of the gifts at once, and stores of food and wine, stowed them deep in the holds, and then for their guest they spread out rugs and sheets on the half-deck, clear astern of the ship's hull, so he might sleep there soundly, undisturbed. And last, Odysseus climbed aboard himself, and down he lay, all quiet, as crewmen sat to the oarlocks, each in line. They slipped the cable free of the drilled stone post, and soon as they swung back and the blades tossed up the spray, an irresistible sleep fell deeply on his eyes, the sweetest, soundest oblivion, still as the sleep of death itself. And the ship, like a four-horse team, careening down the plain, all breaking as one with the whiplash cracking smartly, leaping with hoofs high to run the course in no time, so the stern hove high and plunged with the seething rollers, crashing dark in her wake, as on she surged, unwavering, never flagging. No, not even a darting hawk with the quickest winds could keep her pace. Oh, I thought that was a question. As on she ran, cutting the swells at top speed, bearing a man endowed with the gods' own wisdom, one who had suffered 20 years of torment, sick at heart, cleaving his way through wars of men and pounding waves at sea. But now he slept in peace, the memory of his struggles laid to rest. Weird question, what would happen if Odysseus came back to an empty house? Define empty house. Like everyone had died? Well, then he rolls up and everyone's dead. Telemachus has no reason not to be there. That's the big thing. He has a son, so long as his son hasn't died, Telemachus would be there. He'd be the head of the house. If Penelope had married someone else and left, he could go and rightfully likely reclaim her as his wife, but he would also be like, who the fuck declared me dead? Who told you I was dead? So whoever claimed he was dead would likely be in trouble. He could not sleep thinking about the years of war and the waves they sailed together. Do they mean Odysseus has warnings and advice from the gods by Odysseus has the wisdom of the gods? No, meaning he's very clever. They're just saying he's extremely clever. Not that he's got warning and advice from the gods, because he's gotten no warnings and advice from the gods. He's gotten a prophecy from Tiresias. He didn't even talk to Hermes. He talked to Calypso. So he hasn't really spoken with any gods beyond minor goddesses and nymphs. Yeah, it would be an extreme political nightmare. It would be a pain, basically. He'd have to figure shit out. And then that hour the star rose up, the clearest, brightest star that always heralds the newborn light of day. This deep sea-going ship made landfall on the island, Ithaca, at last. There, on the coast, a haven lies, named for Phorkys, the old god of the deep. So Phorkys, or Phorkys, he's a primordial sea god. He's said to be the son of Pontus and Gaia. Now, Hesiod says that, so his wife is usually known as Keto or Keto. And it says, now Hesiod will tell you that he and Keto are parents to the Gorgons. They are parents to the Grei. And they also are, at least according to Hesiod, the parents of Ladon, who is known as the Drakon Hesperios, who is the dragon that guards the Garden of the Hesperides. And sometimes they're even said to be the parents of Echidna, but it's left a little vague in Hesiod if that's what he meant. But the Phaeacians to start to be based off, actually, we're not there yet, Anxiety Tea Leaves. We're not there yet. We're going to talk about it. Hold up. We're not there yet. We haven't even gotten to that bit yet. But we'll get there. But what's interesting about Ladon or Ladon, who I mentioned, this dragon, essentially, this giant serpent, usually Ladon is said to be a child of Typhon and Echidna, which would make him the grandchild of Phorkys. But, you know, every now and then, different sources, different weirdness. Now, Apollodorus, the reason you should maybe also note Phorkys is that Apollodorus says that he is one of two potential fathers for Scylla. Whereas Apollonius of Rhodes basically also kind of confirms, basically goes along with the idea that he is the father of Scylla. Now, what's also interesting is earlier in the Odyssey, back in like book 1, I believe, Homer named Phorkys also as the parent of Tusa. Tusa being the mother of Polyphemus. All of them are so freaking connected. It's ridiculous. Oh yeah, man, it's like, that's where I heard the name. Yeah, we've heard Phorkys a lot, and he's kind of all over the place. But yeah, he's one of many kind of primordial sea gods. Classic Greek myth, I know, they're all freaking related. It's ridiculous. With two jutting headlands sheared off at the seaward side, but shelving toward the bay, that break the great waves whipped by the gales outside, so within the harbor ships can ride unmoored. Whenever they come in mooring range of shore. At the harbor's head, a branching olive stands with a welcome cave nearby it, dank with sea mist, sacred to the nymphs of the springs we call the Naiads. Naiads, kind of like they say here, they're nymphs. They're usually they preside over like small bodies of fresh water. So like fountains, wells, springs, streams, stuff like that. They can sometimes be dangerous in that they might say, ooh, you're pretty and I'm going to take you and keep you. And usually in terms of their worship, historically, you would usually find very localized cult worship to them. Because again, if we're basing it around a specific body of water, it's going to be localized to the area of that body of water. Right? Makes sense. But they're not associated with things like rivers. Those are river gods, usually themselves. And obviously, we're talking freshwater only, so nothing with like the sea or anything like that. Anime backstories have a very long history, yeah. There are mixing bowls inside and double-handed jars, crafted of stone, and bees store up their honey in the hollows. There a long stone looms as well, where the nymphs weave out their webs from clouds of sea blue wool, a marvelous sight, and a wellspring flows forever. The cave has two ways in, one facing, loves to speak about the nymphs. Yeah, he does. He really likes to describe the nymphs. The cave has two ways in, one facing the north wind, a pathway down for mortals. The other, facing the south, belongs to the gods. No man may go that way. It is the path for all the deathless powers. Were naiads all female? And did they, you're pretty, I'm keeping you to both genders. Naiads, nymphs in general, are female. I've only heard stories of them taking men. Were naiads and Dionysus connected in some way? Naiads specifically? No. Are you thinking of the Maenads? There are different types of nymphs. I think you're thinking of the Maenads. If you're thinking of the story of Orpheus and Eurydice. It's the Maenads, not the Naiads. Amina. I have a feeling that's where you're going. Different nymphs. Much more wild. But no, Dionysus and the Naiads are not specifically linked. But yeah, I was going to say, yeah, I think you're thinking of the Maenads. Here at this bay, the Phaeacian crew put in. They'd known it long before, driving the ship so hard she ran up onto the beach for a good half her length. Such weight the oarsmen's brawny arms had made. They got them good Greek guns. So the morning star, IRL Venus Phosphorus, said it's always there, which it's not. Obviously, sometimes it's in the evening. We'll hold back on other time planet. But basically, are you saying, is this Venus? Is this the morning star? It's the morning star. Which obviously Venus is not a thing to these guys, but it's the morning star. Pallas is a naiad. Yeah, Pallas, I do believe. Yeah, I think you're right. What are Nereids? Water nymphs. Usually related to the sea, specifically, and they are all essentially children of Nereus, hence their name, Nereids. We talked about them when we talked about Nereus. Isn't it the sun? No, the star that they're talking about is the morning star, the thing that heralds the dawn. It's the morning star. Dionysus. I actually don't. Hold on. I need to actually look at the Greek of his name, cause Dio. I don't think so. Though Mariana would have to correct me about Dionysus and his name. The Dio. Dios. Oh, yeah, actually maybe. I don't know. Greek stuff Mariana's got that handled more than me. Yes, the oarsmen's brawny arms had made. Well, they also just wouldn't have called it Venus. Venus is a Roman name. Up from the benches, swinging down to land, first they lifted Odysseus off the decks, linen and lustrous cape too, and laid him down on the sand asleep, still dead to the world. Then hoisted out the treasures proud Phaeacians, urged by open-hearted Pallas, had lavished on him, setting out for home. They heaped them all by the olive's trunk in a neat pile, clear of the road for fear some passer-by might spot and steal Odysseus's hoard before he could awaken. Then, pushing off, they pulled for home themselves. But now Poseidon, god of the earthquake, never once forgetting the first threats he leveled at the hero, probed almighty Zeus to learn his plans in full. Zeus, Father, I will lose all my honor now among the immortals. Now there are mortal men who show me no respect. Phaeacians, too born of my own loins. I said myself that Odysseus would suffer long and hard before he made it home. Why did they not wake Odysseus before leaving him to let no erect? Because he's asleep. Man needs a nap. Man has not had good sleep. They're like, you know what? He's safe. He's home. We're going to let him sleep. They're saying like he's basically sleeping almost like the sleep of death. That dude is dead to the world. They might have tried and weren't able to. And they're like, you know what? We heard his story and how hard he's had it. Maybe just let the guy sleep. And again, also because they traveled so fast, faster than any ship could ever travel. They're like, he hasn't slept that long. that Odysseus would suffer long and hard before he made it home, but I never dreamed of blocking his return. Not absolutely, at least. Once you had pledged your word about your head. But now, they've swept him across the sea in their swift ship. They've set him down in Ithaca, sound asleep, and loaded the man with boundless gifts, bronze, and hoards of gold and robes. More plunder than he could have ever won from Troy if Odysseus had returned intact with his fair share. Incredible. Zeus, who marshals the thunderheads, replied, Earthshaker, you, with your massive power, why moaning so? The gods don't disrespect you. What a stir there'd be if they flung abuse at the oldest, noblest of them all. Those mortals? If any man, so lost in his strength and prowess, pays you no respect, just pay him back. The power is always yours. Do what you like, whatever warms your heart. King of the dark cloud, the earthquake god agreed. I'd like to avenge myself at once, as you advise, but I've always feared your wrath and shied away. But now, I'll crush that fine Phaeacian cutter out on the misty sea, now on her homeward run from the latest convoy. They will learn at last to cease and desist from escorting every man alive. I'll pile a huge mountain round their port. Wait, dear brother. Zeus, who collects the clouds, had second thoughts. Here's what seems best to me. As the people all lean down from the city heights to watch her speeding home, strike her into a rock that looks like a racing vessel just offshore. Amaze all men with a marvel for the ages. Then pile your huge mountain round their port. So, this bit with Zeus and Poseidon, let me tell you. Yeah, you ask, why is Zeus giving Poseidon ideas on how to punish the Phaeacians? This is huge. Like, when I tell you this has been something that, in some ways, actually, I mean, it can in some places actually like shock and horrify modern scholars, but even back in the day, I mean, only so far back in the day, it was still, they were like, what? So, what we're seeing here, we're about to get essentially the end of the Phaeacians, but it's the end of the Phaeacian, as they would say, tradition of hospitality or help for a stranger or wayfarer, part of Xenia. And it sets in motion this twice mentioned prophecy that we've had about the doom of Scheria, which obviously was mentioned well before Alcinous talked about it, but they didn't connect it with Odysseus. Part of that is because Odysseus himself didn't realize it was Poseidon who was super pissed at him. So, like, for the longest time, so he was just like, we see he constantly talks about thinking it's Zeus who's mad at him, right? So, what we see here, what we're about to see here is that the Phaeacians are about to be punished by the gods, essentially for above and beyond Xenia, because their magnanimity, all this that they've done for Odysseus, has made Poseidon feel that his honor, now one's own honor, this perception of how the others around you see you, this is a very tenuous thing. I mean, this is the thing that in the Iliad makes Achilles, they would say, bring like 10,000 woes upon the Achaeans. I mean, that sets off Achilles in his temper tantrum. It's the thing that leads Telamonian Ajax, the greater Ajax, to kill himself. Like, your perception of your honor and how others see you. So, like, it's we say big Greek men and their big Greek feelings. The gods are the same way. They have that same perception. Like, what the fuck do you mean? I'm so insulted by what is going on here because this is what it means. So, this thing, like, it's been dealt, like, to Poseidon, he feels this is an intolerable blow. He will not accept this. He will not take this. I'm trying to find a note that I have here. What's really interesting is, like, we would say, and I'll actually read here from the introduction that's in the Fagles edition, which is actually by the classicist Bernard Knox. He has some interesting stuff that he says about this. Where is it? So, let's see. This action of Zeus, basically giving his brother even more ideas, casts a disturbing light on the relation between human ideals and divine conduct. Didn't Zeus himself tell Athena to send him to the Phaeacians in the first place to have him give the gifts to make up for the lost choice spoils? Yes. So send him here. That's where he needs to get to because there's no other way he's going to get home. They're the only ones who have a ship that's going to be able to do it. Yeah, Zeus is playing both sides. Again, we're talking about the difference between mortal ideals and divine conduct. The gods play by other rules. That's the way why Aeolus was so afraid of helping. Because the gods play by different rules. Yeah, Aeolus was wary because he knew better. He's like, I'm not pissing off any god. He's like, some god is pissed at you and I am not getting in the middle of that because you don't know what the gods will do if they, for some reason, feel slighted or that you have helped someone who has slighted them, which ultimately means you also are slighting the god. Yeah, Aeolus, this is part of why he's like, yeah, I helped you once and I wasn't super happy about it, but I did it. You're clearly someone up there is mad at you and I'm not in the middle. Yeah, that's exactly why Aeolus was rightfully wary of helping them. If there's one, so as we say, if there is, let's see, faced with Poseidon's rage against the Phaeacians, Zeus, who's known as the protector of strangers, is, as we see, enthusiastically joining his brother in the denunciation of them. When on the timeline? Almost instantly. We're not there. So, Danilo, we're not quite there yet. We're going to be reading the beginning of the end, essentially, of the Phaeacians, right in just like a handful of lines. We're almost there, so we're about to literally have it now. This is the beginning of the start of that. It's basically they make the idea and they continue on. It's, what was I saying? So not only does, and obviously as we see, not only does Zeus basically suggest the idea of turning the ship to stone, he also improves, obviously, of Poseidon's intention to cut the Phaeacians off in the sea by, bringing down the mountain down upon the city or into the harbor. No, it's okay. No, don't apologize. But no, hey, we all jumped the gun. It's okay. I know everybody's excited to ask their questions. So we're like, we're almost there. We're like right there. We're right there. And if you still have questions after that, then absolutely keep asking them. Totally fine. So, because the thing that's important to remember is that we've said, I always talk about Xenia, and I make all these almost jokes about it. What we're seeing here is the fact that offenders must be punished. These people who have offended the gods in some way. But even if their punishment displays on the part of the gods an utter indifference to the only code of moral conduct, Xenia, that remains in this kind of insecure, tumultuous world of the Odyssey. The one thing that's been constant is Xenia. And yet the gods, when their anger is slighted, it doesn't matter if you did Xenia to another human, you've insulted me, a god. The gods are playing by different rules because they're the gods. Ultimately, don't offend them in any way. Unfortunately, you did. And again, even if you didn't mean to, you did. As we say, if there is one stable moral criterion in the world of the Odyssey, it's the care taken by the powerful and well-to-do of strangers, wanderers, and even beggars. Again, this thing of Xenia. This code of hospitality is the one universally recognized morality, and its divine enforcer, or so all mortals believe it to be, is Zeus himself. Zeus, Theos Tenios. The protector of the stranger and of the suppliant. We've invoked him many times even in just the Odyssey. He's invoked by Odysseus, by Nausicaa, Ceneus the Phaeacian elder, by Alcinous. We're going to see it even later with Eumaeus. Again, Xenia is this core of the Odyssey. It's the linchpin that for these Greek-speaking peoples is holding them all together. No shortcuts. Yeah, it is. Yeah, as Maria says, it's also a warning tale. Don't think that sailing through the sea is easy. You can't take shortcuts. You can't avoid the dangers. There's consequences, basically, for cheating. So as long as the Phaeacians were kind of not cheating, the gods didn't get mad. But in this case, they're like, you're cheating. He's trying to complete his Nostos, and you just gave him a cheat code. Oh, hell no. No, you don't. Now, as Bernard Knox notes here, he goes, this... Zeus is joining in on this, has shocked some modern translators and editors, and many believe in an ancient editor from Byzantium named Aristophanes. Now, what Aristophanes did was essentially Bowdlerize Homer. If you're not familiar with the idea of Bowdlerizing, it's a term that's used where some guy back in the day decided, I don't like Shakespeare's language. I'm going to change it and edit it because it's imperfect. You think I'm kidding? Somebody thought that. Bruh, where do you get off? This is the same thing. Aristophanes clearly thought there was a mistake in here, so he started changing words. He started changing words and changing the Greek. So by changing, as it says here, by changing 3 letters in the Greek, he made Zeus end his speech with the words, but do not pile a mountain round the city, which was like, my dude, how dare you touch this? Who do you think you are? Who do you think you are? You don't even go here. Like, it's shocking. And of course, as they say, we have no reasonings for why Aristophanes gave this reading. I know they're on islands, but could they be more scared by the sea or the land? Scared by both, but the sea is way more terrifying because it's one of oftentimes your only ways to get around to certain places. And seafaring technology was far more nascent than land traveling technology at that time. You felt a little more secure in your land traveling technology. You don't even go here. Aristophanes, man, I got beef. And as Knox here says, he goes, there is no warrant for this alteration. Like, it's the from Byzantius. Yes, Aristophanes from Byzantius. Yes, Mariana, it's this guy who said, I'm just gonna change some words in Homer, and it's like, excuse you? Bruh. Do you even lift, bruh? What are you doing? Yeah, it makes the job of others. Why? I know! Why? And he gives like no reason, and every scholar's like, who the fuck do you think you are? Right, leave the story alone, man. Because he doesn't even just change that. He changes words elsewhere. He does it all over the place. Thank God we know that he was doing this, at least. It's like, what in the world? So, here's the thing, as Bernard Knox notes, there is no warrant for this alteration. There is indeed a very good reason, quite apart from the fact that Aristophanes' motive is obvious, which is that he just clearly is like, this is so improper, I must change it. To reject this change out of hand. If Homer's Zeus had really urged such a radical revision of Poseidon's plan, which is like, don't actually, bring the mountain down, etc., then you would expect some sort of reply on Poseidon's part, whether it be acceptance, rejection, or even just acknowledgement of changing the plan, and you would have to do it, it'd be indispensable. But Poseidon doesn't say anything, so obviously that change is not meant to be there. Who do you think you are, Aristophanes? Seriously, the audacity. Furthermore, if the Phaeacian city was never to be cut off by the mountain, we are left with something that would have been unprecedented in Homer, an unfulfilled prophecy. Alcinous has twice mentioned the prophecy of his father that one day Poseidon would ring the city with the mountain, would bring the mountain down. Homer does not tell us what happened. Because when we see the Phaeacians the last time, we're going to see them beginning the process of trying to basically stop the prophecy. But one thing is clear, they are done with their generous hospitality and conveying strangers to their destinations. A god has forced this decision. His vindictive punishment has been fully approved by Zeus. Zeus may sometimes act as the protector of suppliants, beggars, and wanderers, but human concerns and conceptions of justice fade into insignificance when the maintenance of a powerful god's prestige is the issue. Again, the gods play by different rules. Basically, your human concerns mean nothing if we're talking about a pissed off god. So yeah, fun fact about that. It's like, why does Zeus join in on this? His brother's pride is wounded. The pride of the god trumps everything. They play by different rules. Yeah, well, and again, what's crazy about Aristophanes, he doesn't just change stuff in there. He changes stuff in the underworld chapters. He changes stuff all over the place. And it's like, Where do you get off? The audacity. The absolute Byzantine audacity. It's ridiculous. Yeah, Homer never does set up with no payoff. He would never leave an unfulfilled prophecy. Agnes? No. Oh, but yes, so now we have Zeus and Poseidon basically saying, let's really fuck the Phaeacians up for this. Which again is so wild, because for the humans that would be, so brutal, because they clutch onto Xenia. But the gods are like, yeah, Xenia is important. Our prestige is even more important. Again, we play by different rules. His fanfiction's more important than what Homer... Oh my god. We'll get also to that in a second, because there is a rabbit hole that Mariana's going to be so glad I'm going to bring up again. Mariana, can you guess the rabbit hole that's going to get brought up again? I'm sure Mariana can already feel it, and it's just like, oh god, no. We will have to explain a rabbit hole. Don't worry. Hearing that from Zeus, the god of the earthquake sped to... Yeah, Mariana knows. The god of the earthquake sped to Scheria now, the Phaeacians' island home, and waited there till the ship came sweeping in, scudding lightly along. And surging close abreast, the earthquake god, with one flat stroke of his hand, struck her to stone, rooted her to the ocean floor, and made for open sea. The Phaeacians, aghast, those lords of the long oars, the master mariners, traded startled glances, sudden outcries. Look! Who's penned our swift ship to the sea? It's just racing for home. It just hove into plain view. They might well wonder, blind to what had happened, till Alcinous rose and made things all too clear. Oh no. My father's prophecy years ago. It all comes home to me with a vengeance now. He used to say Poseidon was vexed with us because we escorted all mankind and never came to grief. He said that one day. Yeah, the ship, also the people on it. Everything about the ship and the people on it have just been turned to stone. Sucks for the sailors. That really sucks, honestly. He said that one day, as a well-built ship of ours sailed home in the misty sea from such a convoy, the god would crush it. Yes, and pile a huge mountain round our port. So the old king foretold. Look, it all comes true. I was preparing my strife against Aristophanes that comes later, but I couldn't resist to answer. Oh, I'm ready for the strife against Aristophanes, but I knew, Mariana, you wouldn't be able to resist what answers because you knew what I was talking about. Hurry, friends, do as I say. Let us all comply. Stop our convoys home for every castaway chancing on our city. As for Poseidon, sacrifice 12 bulls to the god at once. Pigs of the herd. Perhaps he'll pity us. Pile no looming mountain ridge around our port. The people, terrified, prepared the bulls at once. So all the Phaeacia's island lords and captains, milling round the altar, lifted prayers to Poseidon, master of the sea. And that is where Homer leaves you with the Phaeacians. That's it. We will go, and now over on Ithaca. This would happen because Poseidon was pissed. They were sailing around. Why did they continue sailing? Because they kind of assumed it was likely someone specific, and they've been doing it for so long, and granted with relative rarity, and nothing has happened to them. He kind of thinks like, yeah, my dad used to say that, but hasn't happened yet. So I guess maybe we haven't met the guy who it is. It's not like he said, you will escort Odysseus of Ithaca home, and that's gonna fuck your life up. He's like, well, nothing's happened yet. But it's part of also why you see they had initially kind of insulated themselves. They were a very insular society. They really didn't get many outsiders in general, so they haven't really had to think about it. Yeah, I'll leave a cliffhanger. And it's a cliffhanger only because we understand at this point the prophecy is being fulfilled. What we're being left off is in the lurch of this is about to be the doom of Scheria, the doom of the Phaeacians. But those, what are in here, these like 3 ellipses that we leave on, like those ellipses speak more to the mysteries surrounding the downfall and disappearance of quite a few seafaring people during the Bronze Age. And you can go back to something like what is known as the Mount Peta explosion that happened on Crete. I think most people say it's roughly like 1600 BCE. Obviously, we don't have an exact date, but we know that there was some sort of giant volcanic explosion that like just sort of blew a hole in part of Crete. It caused massive damage, affected people all in Egypt. It even had effects all the way down to like China, which we know because obviously massive side characters. Who cares about them? Exactly. And because we know a massive volcanic eruption on such a scale is going to have ultimately global consequences, even if people are not able to connect it. Look at the rocks on the shore of Ithaca and go, yup, those are dead Phaeacians. No, this isn't on the shores of Ithaca. They were back home. They sailed back to Scheria and got turned into stone. Because obviously the Phaeacians wouldn't have been able to see if they were still on Ithaca. What did Hephaestus do? Oh, it's the volcanic explosion. So, hi, Smolivia. We've just left the Phaeacians. Their doom has basically begun. Now, what's interesting about is like this whole, what does it mean for the mountain to come down, to ring the port, cut them off? Like, what does this all mean? Again, this downfall of these seafaring cultures. And if you think again about like the Mount Theta explosion, some people speculate, hey, maybe that's what inspired Hesiod's writing of the Titanomachia because of the way he describes stuff. And some people say, hey, maybe that's what's inspiring Homer's writing of what's happening to the Phaeacians, the idea that just like, goodbye. The reason I only know this much about Mount Theta and that effect and how it goes with the Phaeacians is because let's talk about a rabbit hole. Okay, at this point, we understand we're so close to murder. You know, we love that mass murder. I know. Okay. So, let's talk about this rabbit hole, which I'm sure Mariana is just having flashbacks to the war when we fell down this rabbit hole, which actually, credit to Mariana. Mariana did a lot of the work on this rabbit hole. The Phaeacians are essentially, at this point, we know, destroyed. Now, it's left vague. Are they fully destroyed? Like, what does this mean? It's basically implied that this civilization is being goodbye. They're kaboom, goodbye. The mountain is, either ringing the port, coming down on them, mountain doing damage, Poseidon doing damage, goodbye to the Phaeacians. The reason there was a big argument about this is because way back when, during a different book club, and it was thanks to a different book club that this rabbit hole got investigated, and I made a short, to the best of my abilities on it, somebody said that they liked the idea of Nausicaa and Telemachus. And it said, oh, I read that in some sources, they end up together. And let me tell you, that threw my head into a spin and I had to go investigate. And Mariana, thank God again, Mariana, you helped. You did the bulk of the work. I was piggybacking quite a bit. We ended up finding, because we're like, what do you mean? The Phaeacians are destroyed and we're not even at the slaughter of the suitors. How in the hell would Telemachus end up marrying Nausicaa if goodbye to the Phaeacians, and we're not even at the slaughter of the suitors yet, because this is happening essentially instantaneously. Odysseus is still asleep, and this is already happening, right? You have to get to what are known as scholias or scholiasts. Scholias. Think of academic writings, where you start analyzing something and you can put in your interpretations, but you start writing analytically and academically about something. This is a tradition that goes all the way back to ancient times. Now, in Greece, you would have these papers, if you will. These pieces were called scholias. Similarly, in Rome, you'll get what are called commentarii. So somebody's doing a commentary on something. And there were some scholias that were talking about how there are characters who have poetic parallels. This is very common. It's totally true. A lot of people talk about the poetic paralleling between like Calypso and Circe. It's why oftentimes I think in modern times people will sometimes mix them up, which is a big no-no. But that they have kind of a poetic parallel. And similarly with Telemachus and Nausicaa, you see a poetic parallel in terms of stories of maturation, right? And what we got from that, apparently, were people then who became the OG fan shippers saying, well, then obviously Telemachus and Nausicaa are OTP. Obviously they should be together. As if seeming to blissfully forget, did we not just talk about how goodbye, island of Scheria? We haven't even done the slaughter of the suitors yet, and we're saying goodbye, island of Scheria. Huh? But it became so pervasive. Wait, why are we saying wait? Agnes, no. But if they were reading, oh my god, if I have to blame Aristophanes for this too, I will. Oh my god, Mariana, you're so right. Though actually, early enough scholias I think were prior to Aristophanes though, correct? Because Aristophanes is pretty late. So these scholias are being written prior to Aristophanes, right? Or no? Maybe I'm wrong. I'm trying to remember when exactly. Now I'm trying to think of timeline. I don't know. Maybe some of them were, but I think there were earlier scholars both prior to Aristophanes and him trying to make adjustments. Have to check. Yeah, we'll have to check the timeline. Regardless, they start doing this and they're like, well, obviously they're OTP, blah, blah, blah. But this was so pervasive, you ended up later seeing even later writings talking about this, and they're referencing the Scholia. And it's like, why are you referencing the Scholia as if that's fact? It's not. You're not even talking about the Odyssey. So it was a whole rabbit hole that we fell down trying to be like, where the hell did this come from? And you blame essentially people who were initially writing an analytical text, just saying that, hey, there's poetic parallels between Nausicaa and Telemachus, and then some other people taking that way too far. And it's just like, you're like totally forgetting what actually happens in the Odyssey. It was ridiculous. 450 BC? We'd then have to check the dates on some of those scholias. I think we're gonna have to check the date on some of I'll let Mariana check the date on those scholias. So that's the rabbit hole that was falling down, and let me tell you, this happened over quite a while, and it was just head spinning. It was like, but wait, there's more, and we kept going. It was just like, oh my god, what are we looking at? That from the Poseidon turned to ship people with stone mist came up. It could be. Actually, Clover, that's a really good question. It could be. That's not out of the realm of possibility. Again, he was the earth shaker. Well, actually, no, the Scholia writers wouldn't have loved Wattpad. They were truly trying to write, a lot of them, quite a few of them, were mostly trying to write actual, like, academic analyses of Homer. Because even in ancient times, Homer was so important to the Greeks. I mean, Herodotus said he's one of the pillars of our culture. Like, the works of Homer and Hesiod are these cornerstones of our Greek culture. Herodotus is writing this, right? In the classical age. So, they thought he got with the dead princess, and then his dad's, oh yeah, trust me, it's a mess. It's a mess. And also you just sit there like, what? You just look at them like, what? What? It's a hot mess. So I say, I'm just like, oh my god, no. Yeah, it was, like I said, it'll make your head spin. Your head will truly spin when you start diving down the rabbit holes and seeing, especially when you start including the scholias. You're just like, I have a headache. I don't know up from down. Help me. Greek myth for you. It's so true. But that is the end. This is the end, the goodbye, essentially, for the Phaeacians. And I mean, there were a lot of, sort of downfalls, if you will, of various seafaring peoples. You have the air quotes downfall of the Bronze Age of Greece, which was kind of a gradual process, we think, and there's a lot of, we don't really know what happened. And even by the time you get to the Archaic Age and the Classical Age, even they weren't entirely sure what exactly had happened. So, because there's, hundreds of years in between. So, you just have, yeah, in this essay, I will say how Telemachus and Nausicaa are the OTP. The Minoans too. Yeah, the downfall of the Minoan civilization was also something that seems to have been pretty gradual. So, yeah, it's a lot of these it leaves you to speculate, what's the thing that's inspiring this idea in a way. So it's absolutely fascinating stuff. Anyway, that very moment, great Odysseus woke from sleep on native ground at last. He'd been away for years, but failed to know the land, for the goddess Pallas Athena, Zeus's daughter, showered mist over all, so under cover she might change his appearance head to foot, as she told him every peril he'd meet at home. Keep him from being known by wife, townsmen, friends, till the suitors paid the price for all their outrage. And so the king himself, to him, all Ithaca looked strange. Morning, I had enough. The winding, beaten paths, the coves where ships can ride, the steep rock face of the cliffs, and the tall leafy trees. He sprang to his feet, and scanning his own native country, groaned, slapped his thighs with his flat palms, and Odysseus cried in anguish, "Man of misery, whose land have I lit on now? What are they? Violent, savage, lawless, or friendly to strangers, gods-fearing men? Where can I take this heap of treasure now? And where in the world do I wander off myself? If only the trove had stayed among the Phaeacians there, and I'd made my way to some other mighty king who would have hosted me well and sent me home. But now, I don't know where to stow all this." Why is she called Pallas Athena? Oh, Judas, we talked about this back in book 1. Book 1, we went over the epithets for Athena, including the name Pallas and where it comes from. So you can go back, when we're done here, you can go back to the book 1 book club and you'll hear us talk about Pallas Athena and where she gets that epithet from. It does have to do with her friend Pallas, though. Where was I? But now, I don't know where to stow all this. I can't leave it behind here, inviting any bandit to rob me blind. So damn these lords and captains, those Phaeacians. Not entirely honest or upright, were they? Sweeping me off to this no man's land. And they swore they'd sail me home to sunny Ithaca. They never kept their word. Zeus of the suppliants, pay them back. He keeps an eye on the world of men and punish all the transgressors. Which is ironic, because he doesn't realize they're already being punished, and not for breaking Xenia, but ironically for upholding it, but because upholding it offended the honor of an Olympian. It's great. There's a lot of irony in this book. Come quickly. I'll inspect my treasure and count it up myself. Did they make off with anything in their ship? With that, he counted up the gorgeous tripods, cauldrons. When Athena does the misstuff in the Greek, the text is "Opramin auton agnostan toitzain e kasta te mutesaito," so she might render him unknown and tell him all things. Yep. It's like, she's not, what's so interesting is she's doing this not to freak Odysseus out. It's because she needs to talk to him. She kind of needs to do it in secret. She's going to start, putting the plan in motion for the great revenge. But he wakes up, he's like, what the fuck? Which, he's a pessimist. I mean, you blame him at this point. He just assumes people are wronging him. Aristophanes changes the pronoun to auto, so there's apparent concord between, of course Aristophanes starts changing things. Fucking Aristophanes. I'm just going to start cursing Aristophanes now. Who do you think he is? Bars of gold and the love, but Homer did use auton because of the hysteron proter. This is philological stuff that I'm getting a little lost in. I'm sure Mariana will keep explaining. Poor guy. Yeah, I mean, it's understandable that he just doesn't trust anything right now. I mean, 20 years. Yeah, what the flippity flip, dude? Yeah, that's basically what he's saying. He's like, what's going on? Why didn't the Phaeacians realize that Odysseus pissed off the gods during his story? Why did Helmut clear God hates his guts? Well, has he pissed off a god in particular? Even Odysseus thinks Zeus is mad at them because of stuff related to Troy. It's been 20 years at this point. All of the other Trojan war heroes have gotten home, right? That's well known throughout the land. So at this point, it's like, okay, well, that's done. Everybody's gotten home. This shouldn't be a problem. Odysseus, linking it with Polyphemus is still, they're just not clocking it. For them, they just haven't made the connection. They're just being really good hosts. Also, remember that we know a lot more than Odysseus. We know, as the audience, know a lot more, even more than the Phaeacians, because we've gotten perspectives outside of both of them that obviously Odysseus and the Phaeacians have not gotten. Zeus was technically neutral in the Trojan War. Also, welcome back, Birchwood. So Zeus was technically neutral, but he actually seemed to side more with the Trojans than he did with the Greeks, but he was officially neutral. Yeah. all Trojan war heroes at this point are home, or they died either at Troy, or in the case of Agamemnon, were brutally murdered in their own home. So, yeah, he's always neutral. Lots of air quotes on that neutral. He was, I mean, technically he remained neutral. But it was clear who he was rooting for, you know? He was just like, I think I, for once, know better than to get involved in this because my wife is really big mad. And he also knew the devastation of gods getting involved. It's part of why we'll see in the Iliad, he basically tells all the gods, get the fuck off the battlefield, stop getting involved, none of it. This is between the mortals. He's witnessed the Titanomachia, you know? And so he knows the danger of gods getting involved in this way and fighting ultimately with each other, and he doesn't want that. Right? Yeah. Obviously Homer told what comes later. First, there's an inversion. The mist around Ithaca first confuses Odysseus, but then Odysseus is messed up by Athena, so no one can... Makes sense. It's good drama. Not a stitch was missing from the lot. But still, he wept for his native country, trailing down the shore with a wash of sea on shingle ebbs and flows, his homesick heart in turmoil. But now, Athena appeared and came toward him. She looked like a young man, a shepherd boy, yet elegant, too, with all the gifts that grace the sons of kings, with a well-cut cloak falling in folds across her shoulders, sandals under her shining feet. Oh, she richy rich, she got sandals. A hunting spear in hand. Odysseus, wagered Syracuse wouldn't make a bowl game last year since they... I have to root for them wearing their jersey, pushing into the next game. So now I know what the bet is. Thank you, Birchwood. Okay, that is an understandable bet. Oh, Aristophanes. Crops that by erasing... Who do you think you are, Aristophanes? Who are you to touch Homer? Where do you get off? Me and Aristophanes on site. The favorite time of book 3, the conversation between Odysseus and Athena? Yes. We're finally here. This thing that I talked about a lot in the epic videos. I'm like, there's a conversation that happens. This is the conversation that happens. And it's a beautiful scene, by the way. You'll then also understand why I was ready to throw things in my goodbye. It's fine. It's great. Odysseus. Why did not a woman? Oh, you shall see I had enough. The gods take all sorts of different appearances. Gender kind of doesn't matter. They just take appearances. It's very common. Odysseus, overjoyed at the sight, went up to meet her, joining her now with salutations on the wing. Greetings, friend. Since you are the first I've come on in this harbor, treat me kindly. No cruelty, please. Save these treasures, save me too. I pray to you like a god. I fall before your knees and ask for mercy. And tell me this for a fact, I need to know. Where on earth am I? What land? Who lives here? Is it one of the sunny islands or some jutting shore of the good green mainland slanting down to the sea? Why did he call her his friend here? Because it just looks like a shepherd boy. He doesn't know this is a god, Agnes. If you're trying to link to him calling her friend, you don't call a god. He doesn't know this is a god. He thinks this is just a dude who lives here. He's like, hey, hello, friend. Hello, stranger. Hello, my peer. Hey, buddy. Where the hell am I? Yeah, he's being polite to somebody he doesn't know who he thinks lives here, and he's trying to make a good impression. Yeah, I mean no harm, friend. Help me, please. Yeah, I come in peace, you know. Oh, so you just joined. We are at around line like 260. So we're like, of the Fagles translation. Athena has just rolled up in disguise. Practice good Xenia, especially to strangers. Yeah, and maybe don't go above and beyond, and don't cheat code how to sail. Athena answered, her eyes brightening now. You must be a fool, stranger. Or come from nowhere. You really have to ask what land this is. Trust me, it's not so nameless after all. It's known the world round. to all who live to the east and rising sun, and to all who face the western mists and darkness. It's a rugged land, too cramped for driving horses, but though it's far from broad, it's hardly poor. There's plenty of grain for bread, grapes for wine, the rains never fail, and the dew falls healthy. Good country for goats, good for cattle too. There's stand on stand of timber, and water runs in stream beds through the year. So, stranger, the name of Ithaca's reached as far as Troy, and Troy, they say, is a long, hard sail from Greece. Ithaca. Yeah, the same description Telemus gave to Menelaus back in book 4. Again, we love our poetic repetitions. Heart racing. Odysseus. Land not good for horses, blah. Yeah, it's like, okay, yeah, we're kind of mountainy. We're not really great for horses. Great for sheep and goats. Yeah, pretty good for cattle too. We're not poor. For horses. Well, if you don't really have a kind of broad area for them to really run or stuff like that, yeah, you might not be great for a lot of horse work. Probably why they're not known as horsemen. Most of the horsemen are coming from the mainland. Ithaca. Heart racing. Odysseus, that great exile, filled with joy to hear Athena, daughter of storming Zeus, pronounce that name. He stood on native ground at last, and he replied with a winging word to Pallas, not with a word of truth. He choked it back, always invoking the cunning of his heart. Ithaca. Yes, I seem to have heard of Ithaca, even on Crete's broad island, far across the sea. The Crete's broad island far across the sea. This is, it's very interesting. Not the false Cretan. Yeah, I know. Mariana's just like, this is a thing that Mariana actually mentioned literally only hours before this in the Discord, and I sat there and had my own mind blown that I had not caught this. And we're both, I would say, making some speculation, but man, you gotta wonder when it comes to this speculation here. The idea of the false Cretan and how this ties into why he mentioned Crete. Like, why say Crete of all things? I'm gonna go here to the Discord. Because what we're potentially referencing here is a really famous logical paradox, if you're familiar with those. Because Crete isn't that far. No, it's actually even wilder than that. Because he talks about, but he replied with cunning. He didn't reply with words of truth. He lied, essentially. He's not noting. And it is quite far from Ithaca. Crete is way down there. Ithaca's way up here. Like, they're not necessarily close. But this is what is known as the Epimenides paradox, or the liar's paradox. The idea is, if you're familiar with the film Labyrinth, you get something similar. It's like, everything I'm telling you is the truth, but I'm lying, right? That's the logical paradox that you create, right? Because you start going and you like snake eating tail in circle. And like, again, this could be totally coincidence, because there's a phrase that's really known in a lot of literatures, this idea that Cretans are liars. The people of Crete are liars. Don't believe anything they tell you, right? Yeah, one of us speaks only the truth, the other only lies. In this case, the Cretans are liars. And that isn't even just in the paradox, but it relates to the paradox. And this is the first time we have Odysseus straight up, we're saying, lying. He's presenting a false, he's presenting false discourse. As I'm going to quote you, Mariana, here in the Discord. As we say, because the phrase, the Cretans are liars, is quite present in a bunch of literature, even outside of this paradox. But Homer precedes all of them, from at least from what can be seen. So is this the first false discourse of Odysseus coming from Crete, being the false Cretan, a former subject of King Idomeneus, who we talked about kind of before the underworld. Idomeneus, by the way, himself is cursed to be a liar along with all of the Cretans by Medea in a later source. Medea gets around. You can look at this and go, is this the basis for all Cretans are liars? If we go back to here. Oh, I know. Let me tell you. Because the moment Mariana mentioned, she goes, I think I found something that was Crete. And I sat there and I went, you can't be talking about this. And then it was just like, my mind went crazy. Again, this is all speculation, but we were just like, but it can't be coincidence. He's bringing up Crete of all places. So where do we get the modern insult from? That all Cretans are liars? Yeah. If as a modern insult, oh yeah, it dates. It dates back. It dates back. False Cretan. It's Homer, man, I tell you. Homer, man. It's insane. There's so much there. Oh, Cretan. Oh, like a cretin? I don't think does. Okay, guys, we're gonna go on a little you mean the word cretin? We're now very curious. I don't think so. But now I'm curious. A pejorative term similar to idiot. What is the origin? What's the origin of that? Ah, no, seems not. The word cretin. It doesn't seem to have come from that. It seems actually might be related to calling someone a Christian. But it has to do also, it's a medical term. But it doesn't seem to come from this. That would have been really funny and weird though, but no. Homer's so ahead of its time. I know. Rabbit hole drink. It was just one of those things. I mean, Mariana, the fact that you, I've never thought about that. And the moment you said, this logic paradox, and I was like, and you mentioned it was from, Titus and all that, I was like, the liar's paradox? I had to remember what it was called. I was just like, the liar paradox? It is, in this house we stand Homer and his just weirdly prophetic writing. It's awesome. And now I've reached it myself with all this loot, but I've left behind an equal measure for my children. I'm a fugitive now, you see. I killed Idomeneus' son, Orsilochus, lightning on his legs, a man who beat all runners alive on that Long Island. Ah, what a racer. He tried to rob me of the spoil I'd won at Troy. The plunder I went to hell and back to capture. True, cleaving my way through wars of men and waves at sea, and just because I refused to please his father, serve under him at Troy. I led my own command, so now with a friend I lay in wait by the road. I killed him, just loping in from the fields, with one quick stroke of my bronze spear in the dead of night, the heavens pitch black. No one could see us. No one could spot me tearing out his life with a weapon honed for action. Once I had cut him down, I made a ship and begged the Phaeacian crew for mercy, paying those decent hands a hearty share of plunder, asked them to take me on and land me down in Pylos, there or lovely Elis, where Epeans rule in power. But a heavy gale wind blew them way off course, much against their will. They'd no desire to cheat me. Driven afar, we reached this island here at the midnight hour, rowing for dear life. We made it into your harbor. Not a thought of supper, much as we all craved food. So this is a story based on any truth that would or could have happened to someone else. Could have? I mean, there's no character I can think of in mythology that this suits. But, yeah, he's literally making this up on the fly. This is really showing how quick he is at, in this case, spinning a reasonable story. So, yeah. He's dropping little teeny kernels of truth in his lie. Like, you're seeing him taking bits of his own story and adjusting. I killed someone's son. We got driven off course. The Phaeacians are now the Phoenicians and all of this. So you can see how he's taken his own story and he's just changing names, changing locations. He's just adjusting it. He'd have been a wild D&D player. Oh my God. R.I.P. Odysseus, you'd have loved D&D. It's wild. Good. We dropped from the decks and lay down, just like that. A welcome sleep came over my weary bones at once, while the crew hoisted up my loot from the holds, set it down on the sand near where I slept. They re-embarked, now homeward bound for Sidon, their own noble city, leaving me here behind, homesick in my heart. A welcome sheep. I know, I was like, did I just read this right? Yeah, that was me. As his story ended, goddess Athena, gray eyes gleaming. Oh, could Poseidon heal Polyphemus the way Orion's sight was healed? Potentially. Because in this case, the thing is, you basically have to regrow Polyphemus's eye, because they popped that thing, as I said, like a freaky egg balloon. Maybe, we don't really know. Is he still talking to Athena? Why not just since she knows? He doesn't know this is Athena. He thinks this is some dude on this island, and he doesn't want to give himself away because he doesn't know the status of what's happening on Ithaca. He doesn't know if he rolls up and says, hey, by the way, I'm your king. They're going to be like, either one, you're crazy, two, who the fuck are you, three, yeah, we have a new king and we could just kill you. Like, he's keeping himself. He understands the value of staying anonymous in this situation. And yes, Athena is disguised. She has not revealed herself to him. He has no idea. And he's been gone for 20 years. This could have been somebody who was, a freaking baby or not even born when he left, so. Well, he's not going to pull on nobody. That would have severe consequences. So we're not doing that again, since we had to spend all that time in Book 9 talking about the consequences of doing that. As his story ended, goddess Athena, gray eyes gleaming, broke into a smile and stroked him with her hand. And now she appeared a woman, beautiful, tall, and skilled at weaving lovely things. Her words went flying straight toward Odysseus. Any man, any god. Oh, is Athena smiling, revealing herself meant to be a you passed the test, respond to how I want about it? She's kind of proud of him. She's about to say she's kind of proud of him for that one. She's like, I see what you just did there. Well played, kid. Well played. It's definitely a well played move. She sees exactly what he's doing. She goes, this is the attitude I need you to have. Great. Any man, any god who met you would have to be some champion lying cheat to get past you. For all-round craft and guile. You terrible man, foxy, ingenious, never tired of twists and tricks, so not even here on native soil would you give up those wily tales that warm the cockles of your heart. Come, enough of this now. We're both old hands at the art of intrigue. Here, among mortal men, you are far the best at tactics, spinning yarns, and I am famous among the gods for wisdom, cunning wiles, too. But you never recognized me, did you? Pallas Athena, daughter of Zeus, who always stands beside you, shields you in every exploit. Thanks to me, the Phaeacians all embraced you warmly. And now, I am here once more to weave a scheme with you and to hide the treasure trove Phaeacia's nobles lavished on you then. I willed it, planned it so when you set out for home, and to tell you all the trials you must suffer in your palace. Endure them all. You must. You have no choice, and to no one, no man, no woman, not a soul, reveal that you are the wanderer home at last. No, in silence, you must bear a world of pain, subject yourself to the cruel abuse of men. Ah, goddess, the cool tactician countered. You're so hard for a mortal man to know on sight, however shrewd he is. The shapes you take are endless. This is a common thing among the gods. Again, they show up in disguise. You never know who or what they're going to be. All the time. You have, which is why, again, we talk about Xenia, we talk about Xenia, because you never know if something or someone is a god in disguise. Doesn't matter the gender or the age, whatever, you have no idea it could be. But I do know this. You were kind to me in the war years, so long as we men of Achaea soldiered on at Troy. But once we'd sacked King Priam's craggy city, boarded ship, and a god dispersed the fleet. From then on, daughter of Zeus, I never saw you, never glimpsed you striding along my decks to ward off some disaster. No, I wandered on, my heart forever torn to pieces inside my chest, till the gods released me from my miseries at last. That day, in the fertile kingdom of Phaeacia, when you cheered me with your words, in person, led me to their city. But now, I beg you, by your almighty father's name, for I can't believe I've reached my sunny Ithaca. I must be roaming around one more exotic land. You're mocking me. I know it. Telling me tales to make me lose my way. Tell me the truth now. If you had a suspicion, ask someone if they were God in disguise, and they were, would they answer honestly? You don't know. And it might be considered kind of rude to ask. Because normally you say, who are you? You don't ask, are you a god in disguise? You just say, you know, after you've gone through all the proper setting and stuff, you just ask, oh, you know, who are you? Where are you from? What's shaking? What's the news? And they'll tell you. Whether or not you suspect it's a god in disguise, you don't usually call them out on it. Because if you're wrong, you've just equated a mortal to a god. That will get somebody in trouble. I see, Robin, I kind of see you're asking a couple questions. Please remember to, you see Clover, put the hands up emoji, because then I don't lose your questions. I just happened to see it. There are any consequences of disguising as real people? Like, did Mentor ever get anything for what Athena does in his form? Nah. What she did in his form was innocuous. It's not often they take the form of real living people in that way. It's kind of a reasonably unique situation what Athena did there. Because Ithaca is a very small island, turning into a stranger, like, she turns into Mentees originally, just to speak with Telemachus, but when she's trying to convince other Ithacans to do things, like, taking the guise of somebody who they don't recognize and don't respect in some ways, probably not going to work given the situation on Ithaca. But it doesn't happen that often, to that a god will take the disguise of somebody who's still living, still present on that island and does that. It doesn't happen too often, and we don't usually see consequences for the person who gets, like, their identity borrowed, if you will. Identity theft is a serious crime unless you're a god. I know, right? He goes with sunny there. It's usually far seen or clear. Clear I can see. I can kind of see why he maybe chose sunny, especially when right now we're shrouded in mist. That might be why Fagles chose sunny as the contrast, because right now he's shrouded in mist and he's like, is this my sunny Ithaca? You know, where I can see everything. Interesting choice, but I think I can see why he did it Fagles did it that way, given we've talked about shrouding in mist. But clear would have also been nice, but I think he really wants to emphasize we're shrouded in mist. Yeah, it is interesting. It's an interesting choice. I mean, like, I like clear, but again, I can see why he went with sunny when I consider, oh yeah, we're talking about mist. Tell me the truth now. Have I really reached the land I love? Always the same, your wary turn of mind, Athena exclaimed, her glances flashing warmly. That's why I can't forsake you in your troubles. That's why I can't forsake you in your troubles. It's fine. What book is the Argos thing? It's 17 or 18. I can't remember which. You know, Birchwood? I will flip through later, and when I remember, I'll ping you in the Discord. It's not this chapter. Oh, do I sound like Tegan? I'm not trying to. I don't think I could ever imitate Tegan. Definitely can't imitate her singing voice. Yeah, my hard stare at Jorge going. That's why I can't forsake you in your troubles. You're so winning, so worldly wise, so self-possessed. Anyone else coming back from wandering long and hard would have hurried home at once, delighted to see his children and his wife. Oh, but not you. It's not your pleasure to probe for news of them. You must put your wife to the proof yourself. But she waits in your halls as always. Her life and endless hardship, wasting away the nights, weeping away the days. I never had doubts myself. I knew deep down that you would return at last, with all your shipmates lost. But I could not bring myself to fight my father's brother, Poseidon, quaking with anger at you, still enraged because you blinded the Cyclops, his dear son. But come, let me show you Ithaca's setting. I'll convince you. This haven, look around. It's named for Phorkys, the old god of the deep. And here, at the harbor's head, the branching olive stands with the welcome cave nearby it, dank with sea mist. Sacred to the nymphs of the springs we call the Naiads. Here, under its arching vault, time and again, you'd offer the nymphs a generous sacrifice to bring success. And the slopes above you, look, Mount Neriton, decked in forests. At those words, the goddess scattered the mist, and the country stood out clear, and the great man who had borne so much rejoiced at last, thrilled to see his Ithaca. He kissed the good green earth and raised his hands to the nymphs and prayed at once. Nymphs of the spring, Naiads, daughters of Zeus, I never thought I would see you again. Oh, now rejoice in my loving prayers, and later, just like the old days, I will give you gifts if Athena, Zeus's daughter, queen of armies, comes to my rescue, grants this fighter life, and brings my son to manhood. Courage, goddess Athena answered, eyes afire. Free your mind of all that anguish now. Come, quick. Let's bury your treasures here in some recess of this haunted, hallowed cave where they'll be safe and sound. Then we'll make plans so we can win the day. With that, the goddess swept into the cavern's shadowed vault, searching for hiding places far inside its depths, while Odysseus hauled his treasures closer up, the gold, durable bronze, and fine-spun robes, the Phaeacians' parting gifts. Once he'd stowed them well away, the goddess Pallas Athena, daughter of storming Zeus, sealed the mouth of the cavern with a stone. Then down they sat by the sacred olive's trunk to plot the death of the high and mighty suitors. The bright-eyed... So in a way, she abandoned him after Polyphemus. She didn't abandon him, more like just like, I couldn't step in. It's like, I wasn't able to stand up to Poseidon, but I never doubted you were getting home. I wouldn't say she abandoned him, more like she couldn't. Versus, as we say, if we're going to talk related to Epic, it's a conscious choice she makes. In this, she's saying, look, you pissed off Poseidon. There was nothing I could do. But at the same time, you were fine. I had no worries. It's just going to take you a little longer. And yeah, all your friends were going to die, but you were going to get home. They sat by the sacred olive's trunk to plot the death of the high and mighty suitors. The bright-eyed goddess Athena led the way. Royal son of Laertes, Odysseus, old campaigner, Think how to lay your hands on all those brazen suitors, lording it over your house now. 3 whole years courting your noble wife, offering gifts to win her. But she, forever broken-hearted for your return, builds up each man's hopes, dangling promises, dropping hints to each, but all the while with something else in mind. God help me, the man of intrigue broke out. Clearly I might have died the same ignoble death as Agamemnon, bled white in my own house too, if you had never revealed this to me now. Goddess, point by point. Come, weave a scheme so I can pay them back. Stand beside me, Athena. Fire me with daring fierce as the day we ripped Troy's glittering crown of towers down. Stand by me, furious now as then, my bright-eyed one, and I would fight 300 men, great goddess, with you to brace me, comrade in arms in battle. Gray eyes ablaze, the goddess urged him on. Surely, I'll stand beside you, not forget you, not when the day arrives for us to do our work. Those men who court your wife and waste your goods, I have a feeling some will splatter your ample floors with all their blood and brains. Up now quickly. First, I will transform you. No one must know you. I will shrivel the supple skin from your lithe limbs, strip the russet curls from your head, and deck you out in rags you'd hate to see some mortal man wear. I'll dim the fire in your eyes, so shining once, until you seem appalling to all those suitors. Even your wife and son you left behind at home. But you make your way to the swineherd first, in charge of pigs, and true to you as always. Loyal friend to your son, to Penelope, so self-possessed. The reverse fairy godmother montage, I know. You'll find him posted beside his swine, grubbing round by Raven's Rock and the spring called Arethusa, rooting for feed that makes pigs sleek and fat, the nuts they love, the dark pools they drink. Wait there. Sit with him. Ask him all he knows. I'm off to Sparta, where the women are a wonder, to call Telemachus home, your own dear son, Odysseus. He's journeyed to Lacedaemon's rolling hills to see Menelaus, searching for news of you, hoping to learn if you are still alive. Where the women are a wonderment is the women are really beautiful. It's a reference to how far-reaching the stories count. It's a reference to Helen, where the women are a wonder. Where Helen is. Yeah. Well, if you think of other women who've come from Sparta, I mean, technically Clytemnestra also came from Sparta. She's a wonder of a different kind. But yeah, it's basically... And also, Penelope has come from Sparta. So it's saying, I mean, there's some pretty interesting women who have come from Sparta. But part of it is also a reference to Helen, for sure. Shrewd Odysseus answered her at once. Why not tell him the truth? You know it all, or is he, too, like father, like son, condemned to hardship, roving over the barren salt sea while strangers devour our livelihood right here? But the bright-eyed goddess reassured him firmly. Literally, Sparta of the beautiful women. Spartan Kalikunaika. Sparta of the gorgeous ladies. We love it. No need for anguish, trust me, not for him. I escorted your son myself, so he might make his name by sailing there. Nor is he saddled down with any troubles now. He sits at ease in the halls of Menelaus, bathed in endless bounty. True enough, some young lords in a black cutter lurk in ambush, poised to kill the prince before he reaches home. But I have my doubts they will. Sooner the earth will swallow down a few of those young gallants who eat out of the house and home these days. No more words, not now. Athena stroked Odysseus with her wand. She shriveled the supple skin on his lithe limbs, stripped the russet curls from his head, covered his body top to toe with the wrinkled hide of an old man, and dimmed the fire in his eyes. So, shining once, she turned his shirt and cloak into squalid rags. Out of context. I do not answer questions about weird non-canon ships, Odysseus x Diomedes. I don't know where people get that. It's not canon. I don't pay attention to it. I don't pay attention to those things. What wand does Athena have? So the word wand is really interesting, and Mariana can correct me if I'm wrong. I'm pretty sure, generally, yeah, Erasmus to get Cleos. The wand is something more like staff, right? It's not like specifically a wand, we call it around, but it's just like a staff that she's got. Mariana, again, can correct me if I'm wrong, if that's in the Greek. Radbo, yes. So it's more like a staff. We use the word wand because we think of the idea of magic wands. I mean, even the Caduceus, the rod of Asclepius, it's just a staff that she's got. And just kind of using it to, make the thing happen. But it's not any sort of specific wand. The only wand that's ever like constant wand, air quotes again, that's constantly repeated would be Circe having one, which again, it's just some sort of staff. Rod, wand, stick, yeah. And then you get Hermes with the Caduceus, or obviously also the rod of Asclepius, which is kind of less a wand as we think of, like it's a full-blown rod. Does Homer constantly repeat stuff to make it easier for him to speak aloud? Very likely that's why it's a quirk of the genre. If you think of epic poetry as a genre, and especially the Greek epic poetry, because this is, oral, if you keep some of the language the same, it does make it easier for you to remember. It means you've already got the cadence in your head because this is a very specific meter known as dactylic hexameter, but also it helps clue the audience because they'll be like, oh, I've heard that before. So it's used in multiple places like that. So very likely it does make it easier for him to orally deliver it. The sooner the earth line, which means it's more likely for that to happen than them killed. Yeah, she goes, it's more likely they're gonna die before they ever get the chance to kill Telemachus, which is true. Because we got the slaughter. They also say wand. Wand is a common word used for it. It's frequently translated that way. But I think even using that word, the image we have, especially even now, is slightly different than what it might have been. Also, yeah, she made him bald. There's great art by Peter Connolly where he has like Odysseus in his old man kind of get up and you're just like, damn, Odie. This is where the depictions of Tiresias having a staff comes from. Part of the reason actually Tiresias has a staff is because he's blind. He needed it to get around. So the staff is actually practical in that regard. As opposed to like something like using it as an air quotes magic wand. Bye-bye everyone, all of you. You're all doomed. She turned his shirt and cloak into squalid rags, ripped and filthy, smeared with grime and soot. She flung over this the long pelt of a bounding deer, rubbed bare, and gave him a staff and a beggar's sack, torn and tattered, slung from a fraying rope. All plans made. They went their separate ways, Athena setting off to bring Telemachus home from hallowed Lacedaemon. And that is the end of chapter 13. So hair, isn't it a sign of wealth? Yes, she made him bald. The good long hair. Also, he's old. I mean, in this case, I think it's more to be, he's old. Your hair falls out. You go bald. I mean, he is not the picture of a king. That's the end of book 13. Again, technically not that much happens. It's a very emotional chapter. Odysseus finally makes it home. We have that wonderful conversation with Athena, which again, I adore. I think it's such a beautiful conversation. We see the downfall of the Phaeacians, which again creates this interesting sort of terror when you realize, oh yeah, the gods play by different rules. So even though the Phaeacians have upheld Xenia in an above and beyond way, like truly, they're not the model, they're beyond the model for how you would treat a stranger, it gets them in trouble. Because of the Kleos, the perception, this dignity, this honor of a god being slighted. Also, again, part of it being we cheat coded it to get him home, which was definitely part of it. Oh no, Brunner, yes, we just literally finished the book. Yeah, next chapter, we're gonna start skulking around Ithaca to see what's up and see what's the skinny. What is he gonna find? Do we have any questions for book 13 from what we just read? Or any, including books 1 to 13, basically. The reason I call hacks. I mean, yeah, part of it is because Poseidon's like, you guys wouldn't exist if not for me, and this is what you do? No. And again, this honor, a person's, and this is not even just Kleos, it's like one's personal honor, dignity. I am careful not to use the word ego, because it's not quite that in a lot of the times. It means a lot. And again, it can lead people to doing certain things. Is Odysseus talking about Athena bringing his son to manhood, line 4 and 11, meant to illustrate how he's still not conceptualized that Telemachus is now 20? A little bit. Like, he understands his son is a man. But, like, you almost have a cognitive dissonance there, you could say, where it's like, I understand my son is a man, but obviously, you know, he's still my kid. He was this baby I left. Like, I think there's definitely an element of cognitive dissonance there. If I lived in the Mycenaean Mediterranean, which kingdom, where would you live? I think I'm going to hang out in Pylos. It seems, well, I mean, if it's anything like Pylos as it's shown here, which is the kingdom of Nestor, seems like they're pretty good. I don't want to have to deal with the nonsense of Mycenae, because I'm like, you know what? How would I chill in Pylos? They seem pretty chill. They seem to be having a good time. Hopefully Odie gets his L'Oreal approved locks. Oh yes, trust me, when Odysseus throws off his disguise, it's very dramatic. It's what helps kick-start and kick off the slaughter of the suitors. He is the drama. Nestor's old. I'll hang out with Nestor. He can tell me all the stories. I'll sit there, eat good food, drink good wine, and just chill with Nestor. I'll listen to all his stories. Cretensis. What was the question? That led to Cretensis. I suppose art-wise, I have a question. I'm working on a piece of art for a friend. Is it fine if I put Telemachus in a half ponytail? Okay, well look, it's art. You do what you want for your art. If you're looking for accuracy, no, he likely would not have tied it up in a half ponytail. He'd have just let the hair flow free, the flowing hair to Chians. But, Reito, it's your art. Do what you want. It's your piece. You want to give him a half ponytail? Give him a half ponytail. If you're striving for accuracy, likely no. It would seem that they tended to just let their hair fly free. But it is your art. Do whatever you want for it. Could Odysseus be considered an ancient Greek baddie? Nestor's a yapper. Yes, he is. The Nausicaa, OG. Oh, jeez. Wait, what is this about the OG shipper? Hold on. Cretensis. Oh, Cretensis. Ah, yes, was one of Cretensis and their Scoli. Fucking Cretensis. Just different from the Nausicaa OG shipper. Oh, ha! Oh my god. Speaking of art and hair, was Odie and the fam blonde? No, I don't think so. I don't think they are mentioned as having any kind of lighter colored hair, though I could be wrong. Did they still call it the Odyssey of the Romans? No, I believe they called it something else, but Mariana can correct me because I've never actually read it in Latin. Odysseus, I believe, so Helen, I believe, Penelope, I believe, had kind of the traditional sort of darker hair, the Mediterranean look. Pretty sure Telemachus did as well. I mean, honestly, the hair color is not that important. I think it's super unlikely you would see them all portrayed as blonde. Hold on a second. So his hair's probably something like a reddish brown. Correct me if I'm wrong, Mariana. There's a word that is used to describe his hair that's something like santas. We know it's curly, which, I mean, they're Mediterranean. Makes sense. You just get the curls. So something probably closer to like a reddish brown, which is what like an auburn is what I've usually imagined and thought of. Penelope I've usually seen portrayed with dark hair. I've never seen her as having light hair because it's something that kind of made Helen stand out. I mean, especially you would think amongst her cousin and her half-sister. Chestnut color is blonde, reddish one. Yeah, I was gonna say, it usually refers to something like a blonde, an auburn. So I've always seen him kind of with like the lighter brown, reddish brown, kind of an auburn color. Penelope, I don't think I've ever seen her with light hair. I don't think she's ever described with light hair. Because again, if you think about her in relation to being a princess of Sparta, essentially, Helen stood out essentially for having this bright hair, especially amongst all the others. Yeah, so auburnish is probably what I would go with. Like pale hair, definitely, or bright hair. Maybe the same brown as my roots. Oh, probably a little lighter than that. A little lighter, a little leaning more towards a red. My roots are actually reasonably pretty dark. Because yeah, we don't have a hair color specification or even any descriptor words for her, I think, or even for Telemachus. But she would likely, I would think, have dark hair. I put in Discord book club the image of Odysseus in disguise with Euryclea by Peter Connolly. Ooh, excellent. Yeah, for those who are in the Discord, it's a really great image. Again, Peter Connolly, the late great, probably, I think, the best historical illustrator, especially for the various periods of ancient Greece and even of ancient Rome, has a really great image of Odysseus in the old man disguise. It was called the Odyssea in Rome, despite changing. Maybe. Romans were weird at times, especially when it came to like classical literature. In my copy, they say he's blonde in that book. In fact, she's described having hyacinth hair. I have never seen that description. Yeah, Santos is like, it has a variety of meanings in terms of just like a slightly lighter color. Laertes, a bad father. The Romans usually didn't go changing the text. They usually just, something like the Odyssey, they would translate it. Changing it would be huge. We are unfortunate injury twins. Clover, you need to stop doing that. Aw. Thank you, Clover. And yes, may we both go a while with that before our next injury. For those who don't know, obviously I have my ankle injury. Clover has decided to twin me and injured the same ankle. Clover. The first Latin translation rewriting was the Odyssea by Livius Andronicus. For Scylla, do you have any suggestions for design and such? In terms of Scylla, for designs, Scylla herself, we know top half human, bottom half 6 dogs, also seem to have long necks. A little creepy. She sometimes I've seen ancient art where sometimes she's described as having almost like a kind of tail. There's a really good art. I think it was on a vase I had seen of Scylla that was kind of cool. So it has like, and the dogs sprout kind of from around like here. For the ship, look up what a pentaconter looks like. Try and go for as early as you can. So they're kind of shallow ships. She's high on a cliff, hence the dogs unfortunately have like long necks. Very odd. Now granted, if you were animating the song Scylla from Epic, then you kind of have to follow the rules that Jorge made in there, but if you were doing it accurate to the myth, it would be like that. But again, Livius was Greek. It is true. Livius Andronicus. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I heard the Romans made the text more violent and cheated more. Now, the Romans wrote their own stuff, not necessarily translations of the Odyssey. So it was likely something more like that. Like you have stuff like in the Aeneid, they shit on Ulysses all the time. Not likely in translations of the Odyssey. Even they kind of were not really going to fuck with that text that much. Even they considered it important and understood its importance. Telling their own myths, though, that's a different story. Any record of Hades being upset that any dead don't reach his realm like that? Dead lost at sea still go to his realm. They still go to the underworld. Lost at sea, you still go to the underworld. They don't, like, not make it. The Romans had their own gods that fused with the Greeks as they took power. Pretty much. The Romans loved... So this is what's actually interesting about the Romans. As much as we tease them and say, you know, they they cheat on it, they, you know, cheat everybody else's homework. What the Romans did, especially when you get into the Empire period, really, even more so, what they were doing was making it so it was easier for them to maintain a kind of hegemony. Because remember, the Greek mythology is highly localized. It's going to change a little bit depending on where you are in terms of practice, who they're worshiping, what aspect of the god they're worshiping, maybe how the story goes. What the Romans were trying to do was sort of trying to standardize a bit more. Now, they did allow for wiggle room, mostly in that they allowed peoples they conquered to basically kind of still just worship their... I mean, this is pre-Christianity, mind you. Worship their own gods, but they'd be like, yeah, we're throwing the Roman ones in there too, and they would adopt. They would pick. It starts taking little bits from everybody and fusing them all together. Part of that made it a lot easier to rule over people that way. So it was sort of an aspect of especially in their empire period. And yes, their gods were initially not really, there's a lot of that comes from these very mysterious Etruscans. Oh, so much on the Etruscans there, because then you can get in stuff like Mithraism, which is still very, like, question marky. What about the people who die abnormally, like being turned to stone? Do they go to the underworld just as easily? They are still dead. So their mortal soul dies, the immortal soul, or the soul, if you know, the shell dies, the ghost goes to the underworld. Yes, it does seem that they go to the underworld. They're kind of knuckle, really leaning in the mutation head that barks. Interesting. I'll be curious to see what you do then. You'll have to send sneak peeks to let us see those designs. I'll be curious. What's the use of funeral rites in terms of in the myths? I thought it was like in the Norse myths. What exactly do you mean, Izzy? Could you please clarify your question, then I will do my best to answer. Because I'm not entirely sure what you mean, the use of funeral rites in terms of myth. Myth-accurate sirens, I think it's way cooler when they're birds. I agree. So much cooler when they're birds. Especially if you then contrast them with, like, the harpies, who are super gross looking. Yeah. Which, if you do the Argonauts, you get both. Yeah, the Romans think it's a colonizing tactic to a point. Yeah. Which, I mean, look at Rome and go, well, it worked for a while. Then the infrastructure started falling apart for many reasons. Turned into stone. Do you think Medusa sheds her skin like snake, or is her hairs that shed skin? That's a good question. I don't know. I don't know if her hairs shed. If those snake hairs shed. That'd be interesting. Oh, definitely go share your Scylla design on the server, Sergio. But yes, Izzy, again, if you can possibly clarify, I'm not quite sure what you're asking about the use of funeral rites in terms of in the myth, especially when you're trying to compare it to Norse myth. I don't claim any great familiarity with Norse myth, so I can only compare so much. Okay, now we're getting to weird questions, Robin. Very early, I'm curious to hear your interpretation of Iphigenia. I've seen people say online, intentionally sacrificed her seems more like a hard choice based on Wiki. I mean, it was intentional, whether or not it was a hard choice. He made the choice. So I see it as tragic and terrible. It's a continuation of this really awful shit that goes on in that whole bloodline, but especially with those two generations. So his father, Atreus, and his brother, Thyestes, and then Agamemnon and Menelaus, and their children. Like, those two parts of that bloodline are so messed up. When you say that souls go to the underworld anyway, what's the use of funeral rites then? Like, part of it, political reasons. There can be ultimately, like, you will get cursed because you offend the gods that you did not properly treat your dead. And you offend the soul that you didn't properly treat them. So it's not that the souls don't go to the underworld. In fact, I mean, we meet Elpenor in the underworld, or, you know, at like the lobby of the underworld, if we will. And at that point, he has not been buried. And he says, go through these rites, or there will be basically a curse upon you. I know, because we're on the throne, which somebody pointed out, it was so perfect. This is called the Lotus Recliner. I'm like, I would have loved to have made that joke, but I don't think FlexiSpot would have loved me comparing it to a mythological drug. But it would have been funny. Yes, I love not being kicked off. I know, I'm going to the Kingdom of the Dead here to find those exact words that Elpenor, our good old boy, uses. He says, don't sail off and desert me, left behind, unwept, unburied, don't, or my curse may draw God's fury on your head. So, you know, you have to go through these rites or there could be consequences, but he is already in the underworld. So the soul will still go to the underworld. Why didn't the gods punish Agamemnon for sacrificing? So like, why didn't they throw him in Tartarus kind of thing? Because ultimately what's happening with Agamemnon at that point is they're playing the long game in that moment. And right now in that moment, they really need him to go and deal with the war at Troy thing. Like, that's sort of the more pressing issue. And yes, it is not quite as bad as trying to potentially trick the gods, because Tantalus doesn't tell them, I'm serving you, my son. Like, he never brings that up to them. Versus Agamemnon, it's pretty fucking clear what he's doing and who he's doing it to. Tantalus tried to do it on the DL. That's even more offensive to them. They're like, who the fuck do you think you are? Excuse me? Peg waking up also woke up my dogs. Peg, you control achromatic hound's dogs. Yeah, and plus he didn't feed her to them as well. That is true, because Tantalus served his son his food, but again, tried to do it on the DL. Well, the thing is, I will say, again, it's difficult when you consider how Jorge did it, but in the myth, she doesn't leave her cave. They just kind of swoop down, snatch people up, and that's it. So she doesn't ever really have to leave her cave. And again, it does seem she has these dogs that come out, and some will interpret her with a kind of tail behind her. If you look up like Scylla Greek vase, you'll find the image that I'm thinking of, which might help you in solving that. Agamemnon did that because an omen of eagles was interpreted, Robin specifically, but didn't he only do it to appease Artemis? So he thought. Again, so this is what's interesting. You get into a difference between omens and prophecy, right? Two things very associated with Zeus. You get prophecies, which come from usually a oracle or someone like Tiresias. They are very specific. Prophecies are pretty hyper-specific. Like, for example, they go and find out a prophecy about Oedipus. This kid is destined to murder his father and marry his mother. Pretty cut and dry, right? Like, the prophecy is hella specific. Versus an omen is something you see and somebody else is interpreting it. They're interpreting the will of the gods. Now, a narrative, even if you're reading, say, Agamemnon, the play by Aeschylus, or even the omens here, they may not necessarily... Now, we can obviously tell that, like, say, Zeus sends down the omen of the eagles in this. We get what he means. They make it kind of clear, but they don't always tell you what it means. But they will tell you what somebody who is skilled in interpreting omens, what they will tell you. Ooh, tell us something fun about the Greek text. So it does make it really... You could say it's the importance of a good interpreter, but it's sort of just like, but was the guy wrong? Was he not? We don't really know. Ultimately, what that moment is really emphasizing is part of the tragedy of the curse of the house of Atreus, which is there is a tendency in that bloodline for one generation to start murdering the next, for parents to either murder or severely damage, eat, their children. It is called the curse of the house of Atreus for a reason. It is messed up. He killed his daughter to appease Artemis, the goddess that valued girls. She also values wildlife. The issue was that they had killed I believe a hind that was sacred to Artemis, and she was pissed. She was pissed. And yeah, she valued girls, but not girls only. She valued, again, gods had a lot under their purview. Do gods know what's going to happen in the future? Like, everything is fated and cannot be changed. Do they know what's going to happen in the future? They'd probably have to go ask the Fates. The Fates are the ones who are likely going to know that. Some of the gods seem to be able to probably guess what is going on. Because again, human nature, there's a kind of predictability to it, and they understand that humans are a hot mess. This sort of divide between them. Generally, stuff is not going to change. Again, you generally can't fight fate. When Odysseus says to the Phaeacians, may the gods in the sky bless the gifts, may I find my faithful wife at home and all my dear ones safe. So, ooh, I'm curious. Was this another no touchy the kettle situation? Which situation? As a no touchy the cows. Fortunately, I have to go now. There's a change. I might not come back, but it's a goodbye. Aw, bye, princess. Until next time. I'm now curious where Mariana is going with this bit with the Greek. And also as which situation being the no touchy the cows. Oh God. Oh, ew. Ugh. Flowers in the attic, ew. The safe and sound part in Greek is artemesi, which comes from Artemis, adjective comes from of Artemis. Oh my gosh. Okay, that is cool. I like that a lot. That is cool. Bye, princess. Well, she's not just nature. And that would be a mistake, because then you also have to consider things like Demeter, and you also have to consider stuff like these naiads and these maenads. They don't have like a domain. They have multiple things about their domain, and not everything is specifically related to nature. So it's very difficult to try to make them monoliths in that way. Scylla's on the server. Ooh, I'll have to go look. That'll be fun. Yeah, there's more to see. Better name it Rome. Start building. Not gonna take a day. Yeah, Romulus. Can you explain that Greek to us, dum-dums? Robbins, I think you're asking Mariana about which bit of Greek? Killing the hind of Artemis. Sorry, brainwish, no word. Oh, is that like a no touchy the cattle situation? I don't think they were told not to. I think that might have actually almost been an accident that somebody did it. I think they were hunting and it happened, if I recall correctly. It's been a while since I read that particular bit of the story. I always read the stuff that comes after, because it's to me weird too. Please remember also to put a hand-raising emoji, because there are a lot of questions coming in. Hate the fair and join the Discord, huh? You can join the Discord for free. Actually, don't I somebody put the Discord link in the chat so I can pin it. Because normally, yeah, the Discord, you don't have to pay to join the Discord. You get it on the free tier of Patreon. And normally we pin it in here. Can somebody put that in here? Why wasn't Apollo pissed at Odysseus considering he made Trojan horse for Poseidon and not for Apollo? Apollo was on the side of the Trojans anyway. Apollo was pissed at the Greeks in general. He was not on the side of the Greeks. Thank you, Medi. This is the Discord link for those who wish to join. We have a fun time in there. It's only mildly chaotic. Well, thank you, Valpurgisnacht. I'm glad that this made your last few work hours go easier. Oh, this is news to me. Oh, did we never tell you? Oh yeah, the Discord's free. It's why we would always pin it, during book club at least. Yes, it is free. Yeah, join us. We're a little chaotic in there. Watch me be chaotic. Agnes is only allowed to be chaotic about Amphithemis in the epic section. Ooh. It's interesting how there's this lack of agency freedom in the Greek concept of fate. Very existential. There is, to a degree. And part of it is because with the Greeks, there's this kind of understanding that humans are a mess and will usually ultimately be their own downfall. And sometimes there will be choice. For example, Achilles is told if he goes to Troy, he's doomed to die. So he doesn't have to go to Troy. We know that bitch gonna go to Troy. So it's interesting. So why didn't he punish? Why didn't who punish who? Why didn't Apollo punish Odysseus? This is warfare. That's warfare. Apollo has no beef with Odysseus specifically. He hates the Greeks as a whole. He's not on their side. Trust me, when we read the Iliad, Apollo's going to, bring himself down onto the battlefield to fight. He is the one who gives, an shot moment to Paris to be able to kill Achilles. He does quite a bit. But that'd be so not seeing the forest through the trees moment that it's just really? Odysseus didn't personally do anything to offend Apollo in the way that he personally ended up offending Poseidon. you know, that's just warfare. Apollo lost the war. Just wanted a high five. Yeah. During the war, did people in the Greek islands temporarily stop worshipping gods that sided with Troy? No. They likely would not have known who was or wasn't siding with Troy. I mean, on the mainland, how the hell are they gonna know? They're not at Troy. And a lot of the times, you can't see the damn gods. Like, you don't know. You would never stop worshipping a god. Oh, hell no. That's a recipe for disaster. Yeah, very Hades town. Give them the rope and they'll hang themselves. That's often kind of the way mortals and fate interact. It's like, they'll do it all themselves. Film industry tea and Peg PC. That was basically all yesterday was. That and the Cardi B trial. Which was hilarious. These are some good questions, guys. We're all very curious today. I love it. Oh, because the Trojan horse was technically his idea. Yeah, but that's not the only thing that kind of ultimately doomed Troy. I mean, it's how they got in and sacked Troy. Nah, he's not gonna like look at Odysseus and go, I will curse you forever for coming up with this idea. Nah. Yes, gods were also fickle. They side with you in one conflict only to side, or side against you in one conflict only to side with you in the next. Sure. I mean, look at Athena. She sided with the Greeks, but then she saw what Oilean Ajax was doing in her temple to Cassandra, and she felt, you didn't punish him enough. Hey, Poseidon, by the way, I know we're usually on the outs, but can you help me take care of this guy? And Poseidon, who had also sided with the Greeks, had no problem turning it around and killing Ajax. So, yeah. Troy was doomed from the start after the birth of Paris. Yes, it was! Oh, it so was! If only they had just killed Paris as an infant. Literally, no, if only. If only. It would have, the Trojan War would have likely never happened. Look at seriously how she suddenly helped Odysseus after turning his crew back from pigs. Well, she got called out on her bad Xenia, and he was in that moment juiced up, and she was like, well, shit. Okay. Is the Iliad in a way Homer's explanation for the Bronze Age collapse? Speculated. Most scholars will... So it's not even just the Iliad. There was, I mean, as we know, a cycle of lost epics that kind of go alongside it. Not written by Homer, by others, but the whole idea of the Trojan War, which is the end of what the Greeks would call like the heroic age, the end of this age of heroes, is sort of we speculate, is the Greeks trying to come to terms with and understand the collapse of Bronze Age Greece, which was a kind of decline process. It doesn't seem to have been like one big incident that happened, right? Which then led into a period of the Greek Dark Ages to then come out into the Archaic Age, going into the Classical, Hellenistic, we hit the Romans. So it does seem that the Iliad is one of many things, really specifically anything kind of about the Trojan War is trying to reconcile like what happened to the Age of Heroes. Well, let's imagine the conflict of all conflicts that wiped a whole bunch of them out. And, their children also kind of started wiping each other or themselves out and never really did much of anything. And we never really had any great heroes again. So yeah, a lot of scholarship pretty much speculates that's potentially what they're trying to reconcile with. Interest in doing reaction videos from like the Hades Town side. I've already listened to Hades Town. I've also seen it performed. So it wouldn't really be a reaction because I'm very familiar with it. The thing I did with Epic was because I deliberately held off and said, well, what if I sat and filmed my reaction? Because I waited till it wasn't yet finished when I heard about Epic and then decided to just listen to it. I was like, why not? And I happened to sit and film it and it happened to take off. Do we know what happens to Telemachus after the Odyssey? Oh boy, yeah, do we? Okay, yeah, we do. Was Odie the one to have Palamedes killed in retaliation for outing him? It seems he and Diomedes kind of potentially cooked that scheme together. Sort of depends who you read. If it's just one or both, yeah, it is Odysseus plus potentially Diomedes. So anxiety leaves. Telemachus, after the Odyssey, you have to turn to a work called the Telegony. which is a lost epic. In terms of actual source material from it, we have some scattered lines, and we also have ancient, essentially, summaries of them, and scholias and other stuff on them. I know, we don't like to talk about it. For a lot of people, especially fans of the kind of the love story of Odysseus and Penelope, don't like to talk about the Telegony, because the Telegony is named such because of a character named Telegonus, who is the son of Circe and Odysseus. If you were to ask Hesiod, she apparently had 3 children in 1 year, and they weren't triplets. Don't ask questions. just don't ask questions. Telegonus comes and he ends up killing Odysseus. Now, Telemachus ends up going to Circe, ends up married to Circe. Penelope ends up married to Telegonus. Seems weird. So yeah, if you follow that, Telemachus ends up married to Circe. There's also some versions where I think he somehow leaves her, whatever, but in general, unfortunately, yeah, he ends up married to Circe. That's literally the only real story we have of him. Beyond that, there's really nothing. Again, the children of these heroes of the Trojan War, with the exception of Orestes and kind of a little bit Neoptolemus, because he's sort of involved there really aren't that many, if any, stories about them. Again, it's the downfall of the heroic age. The last great conflict for the heroic age is really the Trojan War. Yeah, time is weird. Is it though? Every time I hear Orestes, I think about weasels. Weasels? I don't know. I don't understand the reference. Circe's kind of ancient, that kind of big old age. She's very old. Well, she's a minor goddess. If you think about any of these gods who, hook up with humans, there's a massive age gap regardless. So always. Might gods be able to fast track gestations, which maybe. We don't know. Questions, I don't know. Still not the worst age gap in romantasy. Yeah, that's true. It's a hedge a look at. We are using words for biology that I don't know. Daughter of a Titan, Helios. Very true. Yes, she is. As after the storm, I see. I see. Are they alive or do they exist? That's a good question since they can't die. It's true, age gap is basically the standard of mythology, usually even between the human marriages, so. Tis true. Tis true. It was not a Madeleine Miller invention, unfortunately. She very much pulled from the Telegony. Now, there's an awful lot of Madeleine Miller invention in her book, Circe, but the idea that they marry, unfortunately, no, we link that to the Telegony. Those who marry immortals, like Circe, do they age with their mortal lover? They're just immortal. They're just immortal while their lover dies. Telemachus would die and that would be it. They do not age, really. Which ties into like the story of Eos and Tithonus. So yeah. Do you have any non-epic reactions planned? I have stories from Styx on the docket after I go through the round of animatics. That's the next one that's on the docket. Yeah, seriously, when Telemachus dies. Oh no. Anyways, move on to the next one. Yeah, Schrodinger's Gods. Did I enjoy her book? In Circe? It was okay. There were some things I liked in it, a lot that I didn't, but it's her story. I think I'll do Ilium. Isn't there a source where she makes him immortal? Where Circe makes Telemachus immortal? No. I think there's one where they try to do it with Odysseus, but not with Telemachus. It's a much later kind of archaic source. Hold on. Mariana said something and I'm missing it. Told that. Oh, Eos and her husband, the Tithonus bit. Oh no, Izzy, no, that question. Oh, yeah. Oh, we talked about Eos and Tithonus back when we first talked about Eos. That might be book 1 or 2. Oh, sorry, Endymion. Yeah, Endymion. Do you think you'll do Ilium when that's actually a thing? I would wait for the whole thing to come out. I'm doing my best to not pay attention to anything related to it right now. Did Ganymede serve any other purpose than being a servant to Zeus? As a cupbearer? No, that's pretty much all he did. was just there to be a cupbearer. He's a servant. It's my least favorite modern Greek retelling. I don't really read that many that like deliberately pitch themselves as a retelling. I often avoid them. Most of the time just because they don't pique my interest. So any that I really don't like, I can't really think of any. Oh, we'll do the Iliad, don't worry. That's next. After Odyssey, we're going to do the Iliad. That will be the next book club, which ought to be fun. It'll be 6 million terrible ways to die in ancient Greece. Yeah, Tithonus was made immortal but kept aging. It's awful. It's really sad, actually. Ruby mentioned it got lost. It was from the summary of the Telegony. No, I think that's with Odysseus again, not Telemachus. I could be wrong, but Telemachus is not one who ever gets immortalized. Again, it's really rare for characters to get immortalized. It's super rare. It's a big deal for it to happen. Hold on. I have to go double check something. Gee, why did you put this in Greek? I can't read Greek. Oh God, I have to guess. I have to translate. I at least need to put this in non-Greek letters. Gee, why? You said you were gonna do this last time, didn't you? Son of a... I should have known. Gee. You wicked creature, you. Yeah, literally what I said. I told you I would write a question in Greek. Gee. You son of a... Well played. No, well played. Well played. You did threaten last time. Well played. Well played. Well played. My favorite adjective or nickname for Athena, I mean, Queen of Armies is pretty good. Yeah, I do like Queen of Armies. Personally, automatically dislike any Hades Persephone reinterpretation. They're not usually done well. You have a favorite name for a figure from Greek mythology based on its etymology or how it's pronounced? Oh, like a name that I like to say? I think I like Heracles. Heracles' name, when you break it down through the Greek, has so many levels to it, and it's fascinating. Like, yeah, it breaks down how he's the guy, and then you keep digging, you're like, oh, so he's really the guy. Friend of the show, Gregory Nadja, broke that down for me, and I kind of lost my mind. Although you do get stuff like Achilleus, or Achilleus, Aki and Laos, pain to people, like, the speaking names, as they get called, are all super fascinating when you start breaking them down, so I kind of like them all.